Hey friends, it's Monday, April 13th, and this is your daily briefing. First things first, I want to commend you guys, I want to brag on you guys, I want to celebrate what the Lord did last week. I gave you an opportunity last week to step in and partner with our friends at Mission Church in North Omaha to help feed kids who are out of school and who need help, and you guys stepped up in a major way. We took truckloads and truckloads of food down to Mission Church on Thursday. A couple dozen of the youth in our church helped pack food on Thursday and Friday, and then 22 of you got up at 6 o'clock this morning and drove around and helped deliver all that food to families in need. You guys are awesome. Thanks for stepping up. I also want to commend our team here at Corumdale. Ryan Meyer did a great job quarterbacking that whole effort last week. Additionally, Mike Kresnick and Olivia Grant and Bethany Gilbert and Micah Bruce planned 2 worship services last week, one for the parking lot and one for your living room. And so there was a lot of excellent work that our team put in last week and excellent ways that you guys showed up and served our city. So it brings me a lot of joy when we respond that way. It's fun for me to know that as I say, hey, yeah, we'll help, you guys step up in a huge way like that. So thanks, it was fun. I hope it made for a meaningful Holy Week for you. In light of some of the restrictions we had on us gathering, it was great to be able to just step out and serve in that way. All right, quick updates. Here's a couple of things. What I want to do is give you a quick snapshot of where things are and then talk about what ministry is going to look like for us going forward in the next 4 to 6 weeks as I understand it right now, all right? My best prognostications. So here is the reality. The curve is flat and has been flat for the last 9 days. I'll show you a graphic here, and what this is the daily report of new coronavirus cases. So what this shows you is since April 4th was the peak of new cases. Now, what that means is we have done what everybody wanted us to do, which is flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. Okay, so the curve is flat and it's remaining flat. The other thing it's important to say is that a lot of our national attention is focused on New York. And maybe that's fair because New York has been the place where the outbreak has been most severe. Also, most of our media is centered in New York. And so a lot of the people who are reporting, this is their life. They live in and work in New York City. Friends, we live in Omaha, Nebraska. And so here are the stats for Omaha, Nebraska. As of today, 242 cases of coronavirus in Douglas County, about 800 in Nebraska. Let me put that in perspective for you. If we took a random sampling of people in Omaha and packed as many people as we could into the CHI Health Center downtown, we filled that place up with residents of Omaha, Nebraska, 7 of those people would have the coronavirus. 7 of the 17,000 people filling up the CHI Health Center. What that means is that all these restrictions that we are facing are for a very, 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 very fractional small number of actual cases. I think that what's going to happen over the next few weeks is that as our ability to test for this virus increases and as our ability to sort of identify who has it and who they've been in contact with increases, you're going to see a gradual releasing of the restrictions that have been placed on us. And you're going to see our public health response move from a sort of let's shut down everything and take the most conservative approach we possibly can to make sure we stop the spread of the virus. Again, that has already happened because the curve is flat. Now let's move to more of a test and trace approach to public health, which is, making sure we can figure out who has it or who's symptomatic or who is carrying the virus and then deal with those people rather than making all the rest of us shut down our lives even though we don't have the virus. So I think that shift is coming in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Now again, we already know because of what public health officials nationally have said that there's going to be flexibility in how that approach gets rolled out from state to state and from city to city. What I can tell you is that Nebraska is in the bottom 10 of the 50 states as far as the number of cases we have and how severe the outbreak has been. And so you're going to see our local leaders have some flexibility to begin to roll those restrictions back, probably quicker than you'll see it in places like New York or California. Now again, that's what I think is going to happen based on what I'm paying attention to and what we're actually seeing on the ground. Scientifically, as we go forward, when we continue to just see a slow spread of this virus in our local area, at some point we have to say, hey, yeah, there's no need to keep the whole city and the whole state shut down indefinitely. There's a different way that we can go about this. So here's what we anticipate. We anticipate over the next 4 to 8 weeks a gradual lifting of some of the restrictions that are on us. And that means the very first thing you're going to be able to do is get back together with your gospel community. So right now, because restrictions are limited to 10 or less, even most of our gospel communities are 20 people or so. If you throw in kids, maybe 30. So, most of our gatherings are 15 to 30 people in a living room, so you can't even do that. The very first thing we're going to be able to do again is gather as gospel communities. And so I want you to have that as the sort of first barometer for you of, okay, the first way I'm going to be able to step back into a meaningful expression of Christian community is I'll have permission at some point to get together again with my gospel community. Now, again, we're going to give a little bit of discretion there. Some of you will be really excited about that. Some of you will be like, I don't know if I want to have people over yet. I want to be a little more conservative. So we want to give some freedom of conscience there. But the first way you're going to be able to reconnect is at the gospel community level. So this is why we always tell you on Sunday mornings, hey, if you want to be part of Quorum Day, if you want to be really connected, you should be part of a gospel community. And here's a moment when that really matters, right? Usually it's like, I can just show up at church on Sunday. It's not a big deal if I'm in a gospel community. But guess what? Right now, man, you really want to be part of a gospel community because that's the first thing you're going to get to reconnect with. I anticipate that then what will happen is we will be able to start gathering again for Sunday worship, but there'll still be some restrictions on how that has to look. So it might mean that we can only have so many people in the room. It might be kind of like going to Walmart where based on the square footage of the building, here's how many people we can have in the building, something like that. I don't know what all that's going to look like, but I anticipate we won't go from 0 to feel free to have normal services again. There'll be some intermediate step in between. And so that's the next thing you're going to need to prepare for is what does it look like to come back to church? And how are we going to need to love one another in that? Are we going to need to say, hey, if your name is A through M, you can come at 9 o'clock, and N through Z, you got to come at 11. I don't know how we're going to have to look at all that. We'll sort of be trying to think through that and get ahead of that as it rolls out. But I just want you to be aware that those are probably the sort of first iterations of moving us back toward normalcy. So what that means for you is, if you're connected to a gospel community, that's going to be your first touch point, your first ability to connect again. And then again, some sort of restricted public worship. Again, our prayer and our hope is, and what I want you to be praying for, is that we can get back to normal as quickly as possible. And again, I think we're in a good place in the country where we will have a little more flexibility a little more quickly than some people elsewhere will. If you have not been, please be praying for our leaders, our mayor and our governor and the people who are making these decisions, the public health officials. We want them to do a good job. And listen, all of us as we move forward are going to have to balance this reality. The virus isn't going away. Coronavirus is going to stay with us for the rest of our lives, okay? So when we go back to normal, it's not like we're going back to normal with zero risk of ever catching this virus. You're going to have to live in a world where, yeah, the virus exists and there's a chance you could get it. The answer to that isn't stay in your living room for the next 3 years, right? The answer to that is, how do we move back toward some degree of normalcy while also embracing there's always going to be a risk to us of this virus being transmissible in our society. And so we need to begin preparing for what life looks like in that reality. So I want to encourage you to begin thinking about and praying about that even for yourself. All right? So that's all I've got for you today. I hope that's helpful in sort of giving you a vision of what it looks like to move back toward normalcy. And again, I think within 4 to 6 weeks, we'll start beginning to be able to make some strides in those directions. So hold out hope, folks. We'll get through this. I'll see you again tomorrow for another daily briefing.